I'm from Detroit. Single parent, mother, absentee father, and the path I went, and I'm going to teach you, and hopefully young students, you learn that there are struggles, but not to give up. My life was about not giving up. And basically, when I was in elementary school, coming home, kids threw rocks at me. My parents, the teachers it was predominantly a white school. My mother had to go because they tried to flunk me out when I was getting A's. She fought and corrected it. From junior high to high school, my counselor told me I was not college material. So you just be a painter and so forth. Didn't want to hear that. Well, when I was 15 years old, still in high school, my mother tells me that, because I have only one other, have a sister, she says to me that she's working hard, she was a receptionist, that she didn't have money for both of us to go to college, and my sister was older, so she said to me that she was going to have to, she could pay for my sister to go to college, and she went to Howard, by the way, but there was no money for me to go to college. And I said, that's not going to happen to me. So I started, worked full-time, went school full-time, worked at night, paid my way through, got my money to go to, didn't get a scholarship, but I got enough money to go to college, worked hard, still at night, school all day, working at night, all kinds of jobs, except in the University of Michigan Medical School. Didn't have money, so I stayed in the projects. And I mean projects, I mean all I had was a cot to sleep on, and my clothes in egg crates. That's how poor I was. But I was determined to be a doctor. One thing though at University of Michigan, I didn't know, this is back in the 70s, they had a policy against Afro-Americans graduating. They had a policy, the government, where they gave the schools grants to accept kids, but they didn't want you to finish. So there's 200 graduates, 200 students in our freshman in medical school, 10% were Afro-American, so 20 of us, okay? First year, we noticed that there were some discrepancies going on as far as the kids were getting, non-blacks were getting some advantages. And so I went to Dean and questioned why we were not being given the same kinds of papers and some, say, tutorials that the white kids were being given. And I was told by the only Afro-American professor afterwards that I better be quiet. I'm uncovering some things that they don't want. And I'm ruffling the feathers, and that they were going to go after me. Well, I then became quite paranoid, so I started studying extra hard, and I noticed there was 20 of us, then ended up being 15 of us, then ended up being 10 of us. They're flunking out the blacks left and right. I met a young man back then who was Afro-American, who befriended me. I'm observing him one day in a class, a big auditorium, and I'm sitting in the front with my tape recorder and my cliff notes and doing everything, and he's in the back with his arms like this, no paper, no pen, not writing anything at all. And he's black. And I said, wait a minute, something's wrong here. So I go to meet him. I said, well, how can you do this? You just, are you in this class, are you just auditing or what? He said, no, I don't need to write anything or take notes because I've got it all here. I said, medical school is difficult. Anyway, I told him what I was experiencing, and that half our class had already flunked out, and I didn't want to flunk out. And I'm up all night studying. He said, well, I said, Roy, if you like, come over with me and we can stay together. Well, in the second year, we were the last two in the school, blacks. All 18 had flunked out. The two of us remained, okay? That one black professor who told me that I was ruffling feathers came to me and says, Roy, they don't know how you survived this, but you better get out of this school, because in this third year is no longer academics. You're on the hospital rounds, wards, and they're going to decide whether you pass or fail. So I went to the dean, asked for my transcript, and they wouldn't give it to me. He said, "Oh, you're not getting out of here. We're going to make sure that we're going to see you in the third year." So I went down to Meharry, applied. They asked for my transcript. I said, "I can't give them a transcript." They said, "We're not going to accept you." So I told them my story, that I can't get it. They won't give it to me. Anyway, long story short, I get to the point is that he called the dean because he couldn't believe the story that I'd said. So outrageous. And that dean told him that I was on a 10 most wanted list. I was the worst character in the world. So he asked the dean, "All right, so you don't like the guy. Send me his transcript." "I'm not giving it to you either." Dean. So that dean from Heron called me and says, "Dr. Heron, come on down here. I'm going to accept you without a transcript." Because he now knew that there was pure racism at the University of Michigan. And they wanted just to get rid of all of us. Anyway, I graduated at Meharry at honors, went on to Howard. That young man who helped me, Ben Carson. Anyone know who Ben Carson is? The man is genius, more so than anyone ever realized. Anyway, so going fast forward, Howard, my residency, I then decided to go to start my practice in Northern Virginia, 1980. I go to Alexandria Hospital and apply for privileges. They said, "You're not what we're looking for." I said, "What do you mean?" We're not what you're looking for." So I told him, I said, "Well, I hope there's no one on your staff that has the same credentials or less, because if you are, I'm going to sue you, I'm going to close you down. Because pure racism." So when he realized that I had the back end NAACP behind me, I got in. Became the first black to get privileges in Northern Virginia, and I then contacted Howard and said, "Let's open the door. We're not going to let this happen." There are now 180 blacks practicing in Northern Virginia. But I set the pathway back in 1980 for them to do it. So I finished my practice, became very successful, and then I decided that I wanted to do something to give back because I didn't have it. So I formed D.C. Mitchell Carson Scholarship. Last year, ever since last year, we did our Carson Reading Room. Young kids, reading and scholarship is so important. It's my life passion. Do not give up. The road is rough, but if you stay strong, God will be with you. Last year at this time, last May, I was blind. They had zero chance. I had a detached retina. And if they don't get it within 24 hours, the success rate is diminished. After 48 hours, there's like 10% chance you haven't been able to see. They got me over 100 hours afterwards. So the doctor didn't know it was attached at the time, so he thought it was just a retinal tear. So they gave me anesthesia for about an hour at Fair Oaks Hospital. I wake up in the middle of the operation while he's cutting in my eye. That was last May. And the doctor, because I screamed, I'm in pain. And he says, "You're awake?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Dr. Heron, I've got two things I got to tell you, and you got to make a decision on it." And I'm in the operating room, Fair Oaks Hospital. I'm not in any kind of mood of bartering. He says, "Well, I can't give you any more anesthesia. And if I stop the operation, you'll be blind permanently. And if I continue, I've got 2 more hours. And if you move, you're going to be blind." No kind of choice is that. They're cutting in my eyeball. So I said, "Give me just 5 minutes." And they gave me 5 minutes, and I made a prayer and asked the Lord to take over my body. Help me. And in 5 minutes, I said, "You can proceed, I will not move." I was in operating for 2 hours, hearing, seeing, everything they did, didn't squinch. I had no pain at all. That's the power of the Lord. And that was last year, last May this time. It's not my time to check out yet. So you're going to have struggles, young kids. Don't give up. The faith of the Lord will be and carry you through. If you can't think you overcome it, put it in the Lord's hands. And I'm telling you, I'm a living proof of what it would do. Thank you.